Man successfully escaped from prison and came to the shore. He nervously surveyed the unfamiliar outside world and did not dare to let down his guard as long as he saw a police officer on the road he would subconsciously avoid it. In this way, Johnson wandered into a farmer's house while the owner was working in the fields. He rummaged through the closet and found a few old rags, and immediately changed out of his prison uniform. Seeing that the farmer was about to go home, he hurriedly put on his clothes and prepared to leave the place, but he accidentally saw himself in the mirror with a full face of scruffy hair. 15 years of imprisonment had even made Johnson forget what he looked like at first. When he came to his senses, he didn't hesitate to take his prison uniform with him. After his release, Johnson returned to his hometown after a 2-month trek based on vague memories, only to find that his old home had long since disappeared and his father had died 5 years earlier, which was a thunderbolt of bad news that pierced his heart. Johnson then went to his fiancée's place, but there was an elderly couple living there, and he rushed to ask them about it, only to find out that his fiancée had already married in Paris. Johnson's father's death and his fiancée's remarriage were a shock to his already exhausted body. Now Johnson was homeless and wandered aimlessly on the streets like a zombie. Unexpectedly at a corner but suddenly met a group of police patrols. From the instinctive fear instantly surged to the heart, Johnson unconsciously hid away. At this time, a prisoner took the opportunity to escape and the two chased each other just to Johnson's front. Eventually, the prisoner was knocked to the ground and was punched and kicked. Watching the policeman's evil behavior made Johnson think of himself in prison, so he rushed straight to the police and punched over the police to vent his anger. After the prisoner begged him to take the key from the police officer and successfully opened the lock for him. Unbeknownst to him, it was this inadvertent act of kindness that would completely rewrite Johnson's life in the future. The rescued prisoner followed Johnson closely, but he didn't move, no matter how hard he tried to drive him away. At that moment, a group of police patrols suddenly appeared in front of them, so they had no choice but to hide in the carriage and talk to each other. Learning that the man's name was Andy, who had been caught smuggling alcohol on the beach, to Johnson's surprise, Andy had a freighter out at sea, and because of the chaos, the captain and crew had abandoned the ship, leaving only a mute to guard it. So after leaving the city, the two of them went to the boat without stopping and then fled the town without hesitation. Andy, as a smuggler, knew nothing about sailing, and Johnson was the only one who knew how to navigate, providing the coordinates of his hometown. But Andy never dreamed that the man who saved his life had another agenda. Johnson lied that there was a storm coming and they had to dock temporarily, and it just so happened that there was an uninhabited island nearby. Eventually they made it to the island, and when the three of them arrived at the shore, Johnson excused himself and told them to stay put while he hunted in the mountains. But Johnson was walking around, taking out a compass to check his direction, not hunting at all, but looking for something. When he came to the top of the mountain, he took out a wrinkled map from his pants and started searching according to the directions on it. But to Johnson's dismay, he searched the entire island but couldn't find any of the places marked on the map. He had found the map in the cell of his dead friend who had told him it was a real treasure map when he was running away.